What does it actually take to leave a seven-time world champion completely speechless? Because it just happened, and the reason behind it is a story that's been building quietly for almost 2 entire years. So before we get into this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what Ferrari just confirmed is about to define the rest of this season, and Hamilton's reaction to it says everything. Now here's the situation. Lewis Hamilton has just confirmed that Ferrari is pushing hard, and I mean genuinely hard, to introduce major upgrades in the second half of the 2026 season, a direct warning shot to every single rival on this grid. So why does this announcement matter so much right now? What exactly changed inside Maranello to trigger this level of urgency, and why does it feel like this moment could not have landed at a more dramatic point in Hamilton's entire Ferrari story? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why fans are calling this one of the most significant turning points of his career. Let's rewind and set the scene properly, because to understand why this moment hit so hard, you need to understand just how brutal the road here actually was. When Hamilton signed for Ferrari, it was billed as one of the biggest moves in the history of this sport. A seven-time champion, the most successful driver of his generation, finally putting on the red overalls everyone had wondered about for years. But 2025 did not go the way anyone imagined. Hamilton finished that season down in sixth place in the championship, and here's the part that really stung. He didn't secure a single podium finish across the entire year. For a driver of his caliber, that wasn't just disappointing, he called it a nightmare himself. And after the season wrapped, Hamilton did something you rarely see from a driver at that level. He stepped away completely. He went on what he described as a full digital detox, disconnecting from the noise, the criticism, the constant questions about whether leaving Mercedes had been a mistake. And when he resurfaced on his birthday, he posted something that told you exactly where his head was at. He talked about entering a new year, leaving old patterns behind, and insisted that the time for change had finally arrived. And if you're a driver who just endured the toughest season of your career, that's not just a New Year's post, that's a declaration. So heading into 2026, the pressure on Hamilton wasn't just about winning, it was about proving that his entire decision to leave Mercedes for Ferrari hadn't been a catastrophic mistake. And that pressure only intensified when Ferrari unveiled their brand new car for this season, the SF26, built specifically around a completely new set of regulations, new power units, new aerodynamic rules, an entirely different philosophy for the sport. And when Hamilton got behind the wheel of that car for the very first time at Fiorano, he said something that genuinely surprised people who'd followed his career for years. He admitted he was massively excited, and pointed out that in all his previous interviews across his whole career, he'd never really allowed himself to use that word, excited. So think about what that tells you. A driver who has seen it all, who has won championships, who has driven for the most dominant team of the hybrid era, was suddenly talking about a new Ferrari car the way a rookie talks about their first taste of Formula One, and that's exactly the emotional foundation this season was built on. Hope, renewal, a genuine fresh start after the hardest year of his career. But hope in Formula One means absolutely nothing until it shows up in actual results. And for the opening months of this season, the pressure only grew because Mercedes came out of the gate dominant, winning 8 of the first 11 races on the calendar, and every single week Hamilton didn't win. The same painful question kept resurfacing in the media. Had he made a mistake leaving the team that made him a champion? And here's where the story finally turns. Because Hamilton ended a genuine 686-day win drought by taking victory at the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, 686 days. Think about how long that actually is. That's not just a rough patch. That's nearly 2 full years without standing on the top step. 2 years of questions, criticism, and doubt finally answered in a single race weekend. And if you want to understand why Hamilton looked the way he did after that win, why he was genuinely left almost speechless in that moment, that's the reason. That wasn't just a race win. That was validation for an incredibly difficult chapter of his career finally paying off. And now, just weeks after that emotional breakthrough, Hamilton has confirmed the next chapter of this story. Speaking with real confidence and fighting talk, he sent a clear warning to Ferrari's rivals, confirming that the entire team back in Maranello is pushing hard for a wave of upgrades heading into the second half of this season. And here's why that announcement lands so differently than it would have a year ago. Because this isn't a struggling driver hoping for a miracle anymore. This is a driver who just proved the car and the team are finally clicking, backing that up with a public declaration that Ferrari isn't done, that they're doubling down, that the second half of this season is going to bring real, tangible performance gains. And when you combine that with Mercedes' dominant start to the year, you start to understand exactly why this moment feels like such a genuine turning point. Because Ferrari isn't just hoping to close the gap anymore, they're signaling they believe they can actually do it. So here's the real question hanging over the rest of this season. Is this upgrade push genuinely capable of closing an 8-win gap to a dominant Mercedes team? Or is this simply the kind of confident talk every team delivers heading into the second half of a season, hoping momentum alone will be enough to carry them forward? Because we've heard bold declarations before in this sport, and we've seen plenty of them fail to materialize once the upgrades actually hit the track. So what makes this different? Well, for one, this isn't coming from a team desperately searching for good news. This is coming off the back of a genuine, emotional, long-awaited race win, the kind of result that tends to inject real belief into an entire garage, from the engineers pushing new parts through the factory, to the mechanics fitting them onto the car, to the driver himself walking into every session with renewed confidence instead of lingering doubt. And that psychological shift matters more in this sport than people often give it credit for. A team that believes it's building towards something tends to perform very differently than a team simply hoping to survive a difficult season. Now let's talk about what this actually means heading into the remaining races. Because if Ferrari's upgrades land the way Hamilton is suggesting they will, we could be looking at a genuinely different competitive picture by the time this season reaches its final races. Mercedes has enjoyed a dominant start, but dominance built on an early season advantage can evaporate quickly if a rival team suddenly closes the technical gap, and if Hamilton, fresh off breaking a nearly 2-year win drought, starts stringing together consistent results with a genuinely upgraded car. That's exactly the kind of momentum shift that turns a comfortable championship lead into a nervous one. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Ferrari's upgrade push is enough to genuinely close the gap to Mercedes in the second half of this season? Or do you think Hamilton's win in Barcelona was simply a brief high point in a season that ultimately still belongs to Mercedes? Drop your honest prediction in the comments right now, because I read every single one of them. Comment Ferrari surge if you think this upgrade wave changes the championship picture, or comment Mercedes dominant if you think nothing is stopping the Silver Arrows this year. And if you're excited to see whether Hamilton can turn this emotional breakthrough into a genuine second-half title charge, smash that like button so more fans see this breakdown, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because we're going to be tracking every single upgrade, every practice session, and every race result as this story unfolds, heading toward the end of the season. Thank you so much for watching. Drop your prediction below right now, and I'll see you in the next video the moment Ferrari's upgrades actually hit the track. But before you go, let's dig into a part of this story that most channels are skipping entirely, because the timing of this upgrade push tells you something important about how Ferrari operates as an organization. Remember, this isn't a team throwing parts at the car in a panic. Ferrari's approach all season has reportedly been about pushing smaller updates almost every single race weekend, rather than saving everything for one massive package, which means this announcement about a bigger second-half push represents a genuine escalation of that strategy, not a total change in direction. And that distinction matters, because it suggests the team has been building toward this moment methodically rather than reacting out of desperation. And if you think back to how Hamilton described his first laps in the SF26 back at Fiorano, a driver and a team that have been quietly building belief in each other since the very start of this season, long before that win in Barcelona ever happened. Now let's talk about what it actually means for a driver of Hamilton's stature to admit publicly that he was left almost speechless after finally breaking that drought, because elite athletes at this level are trained to stay composed, to give measured answers, to never let the cameras see too much raw emotion. So when a 7-time world champion visibly struggles to find the words after a race win, that tells you just how much weight had built up over those 686 days. Every question about regret, every comparison to his old team, every doubt from fans and pundits, all of it seemed to surface in that single moment on the podium. And that's exactly why this story resonates so deeply with fans. Because it's not just about lap times or championship points, it's about watching one of the greatest competitors this sport has ever produced fight through genuine adversity and come out the other side. Now here's something worth sitting with as the season heads into its final stretch. Because momentum in Formula One is a strange and often fragile thing. A single race win can completely change the mood inside a garage, but it can just as easily evaporate if the very next upgrade package underperforms or the car struggles at a circuit that doesn't suit its characteristics. So while this announcement from Hamilton has genuinely re-energized the fan base, the real test isn't the confidence in the press conference, it's whether these upgrades actually deliver lap time on track when it matters most, at circuits where Mercedes has looked untouchable so far this year, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the rest of this season must-watch television for anyone who follows this sport. Thank you so much for watching. Drop your prediction below right now, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update, and I'll see you in the next video the moment Ferrari's upgrades actually hit the track.